Racist teenager bullies black kid, then learns his dad is the school's principal. How will this story escalate? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. Springfield High was bustling with life on a crisp Monday morning. Students mingled in the courtyard, sharing weekend tales, clutching coffee cups, and rushing to their classes. The school was diverse, with students from various backgrounds, but it wasn't without its share of problems. Among them was Eric Daniels, a notorious troublemaker known for his loud and often offensive remarks. Eric came from a wealthy, privileged family. His father owned a chain of car dealerships in town, and Eric often flaunted his social status, treating others as inferior. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and confident in the worst way, using his size and bravado to intimidate those he deemed weaker. In stark contrast, Marcus Jenkins was a quiet, introverted sophomore who had recently transferred to Springfield High. Marcus loved science, particularly astronomy, and was often seen with a notebook sketching stars and planets. He had a bright smile and a kind heart, but his quiet demeanor made him an easy target for bullies like Eric. During the lunch break, Eric spotted Marcus sitting alone under the shade of a tree, engrossed in his notebook. Seeing an opportunity, Eric smirked and nudged his friends. "Watch this," he said, striding toward Marcus with an air of arrogance. "Hey, newbie," Eric called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "What are you scribbling there?" "A love letter to your telescope." Marcus looked up, startled. "It's just a drawing," he replied softly, his hands trembling as he closed the notebook. Eric snatched the notebook from Marcus's hands. "Let's see what we've got here." He flipped through the pages, his friends laughing behind him. "Planets? Stars? What, are you some kind of nerd? Or are you just trying to escape Earth because you don't belong here?" The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He felt the heat rise in his cheeks but refused to let Eric see him cry. "Give it back," he said firmly, though his voice quivered. Eric grinned maliciously. "Or what? You gonna call for backup from NASA?" Before Marcus could respond, Eric tore a page from the notebook and crumpled it. "Oops," he said, tossing the paper into the air. "Guess I'm not a fan of your art." Marcus stood up, his fists clenched. "Stop it," he said, his voice louder this time. The commotion drew the attention of other students, who began gathering around. Some whispered in hushed tones, while others pulled out their phones to record the scene. One student in the crowd, Emily Rivera, couldn't stand by and watch. Emily was known for her strong sense of justice and wasn't afraid to stand up to bullies. "Leave him alone, Eric," she said, stepping forward. "What's your problem?" Eric turned to Emily, his grin fading. "Stay out of this, Rivera. This is between me and him." "No, it's not," Emily shot back. "You're just picking on him because you think it makes you look cool." Spoiler alert. It doesn't. The crowd murmured in agreement, but Eric wasn't about to back down. "Mind your own business," he snapped, turning back to Marcus. "And you, next time, keep your nerdy drawings to yourself." He threw the notebook to the ground and walked away, his friends following him with uneasy laughter. The crowd dispersed, some students giving Marcus sympathetic looks as they returned to their lunches. Emily picked up the notebook and handed it to Marcus. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Marcus nodded, though his eyes were wet with unshed tears. "Thanks," he murmured. "You don't have to thank me," Emily said. "Eric's a jerk. Don't let him get to you." Marcus managed a small smile. "I'll try," but deep down, Marcus knew it wasn't over. Eric wasn't the type to let things go. The next day at Springfield High started on an ominous note for Marcus. The tension from the previous day lingered in the air, and he couldn't shake the feeling that Eric wasn't done with him. He tried to stay under the radar, but Eric's eyes seemed to follow him everywhere. During gym class, Marcus's worst fears came true. The class was split into teams for a basketball game, and Eric was assigned as the captain of Marcus's team. From the moment the game started, Eric made it his mission to single Marcus out. "Pass the ball to Marcus," Eric shouted sarcastically as he lobbed the ball toward him with unnecessary force. Marcus barely caught it, his arms stinging from the impact. "Shoot," Eric demanded, even though Marcus was too far from the hoop. When Marcus hesitated, Eric snatched the ball back. "Guess you're useless here too," he sneered. The other players exchanged uncomfortable glances but didn't dare speak up. Marcus endured the humiliation silently, hoping the class would end soon. But Eric wasn't satisfied with just mocking him. Toward the end of the game, he accidentally tripped Marcus as he ran down the court. Marcus hit the ground hard, his palms scraping against the gym floor. The coach blew his whistle, rushing over. "What happened here?" "Nothing, coach," Eric said, feigning innocence. "He tripped on his own." Marcus didn't say a word. He knew it wouldn't make a difference. The coach helped him up and told him to sit out for the rest of the game. By lunchtime, Marcus was exhausted, physically and emotionally. He sat in the library, hoping for some peace, but Eric had other plans. The library was supposed to be a safe space, but Eric and his friends barged in, laughing and making a scene. "There he is," Eric said loudly, spotting Marcus at a corner table. He sauntered over, grabbing a chair and turning it backward to sit facing Marcus. "Still sketching your little space fantasies?" Marcus ignored him, keeping his head down. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Eric said, his tone turning menacing. He grabbed Marcus's notebook again, flipping through the pages. "Man, you've got a lot of time on your hands, don't you?" One of Eric's friends nudged him. "Maybe he's planning to beam himself up to another planet," he joked, and the group burst into laughter. Emily, who had been studying nearby, couldn't stay quiet. She marched over and planted herself between Eric and Marcus. "Enough, Eric," she said firmly. "You need to stop." "Or what?" Eric challenged, standing up. He was a full head taller than Emily, but she didn't flinch. "Or I'll report you," she said without hesitation. "The school has a zero-tolerance policy for bullying." Eric scoffed. "Go ahead. Who's going to believe you?" "I was just talking to him." Emily clenched her fists, but before she could respond, the librarian appeared. "What's going on here?" she asked, her stern gaze fixed on Eric. "Nothing," Eric said quickly, putting on an innocent smile. "We were just leaving." He and his friends left the library, but not before Eric shot Marcus a cold look. "This isn't over," he muttered under his breath. Emily sat down next to Marcus, who looked completely defeated. "Are you okay?" she asked. Marcus nodded, though his hands were shaking. "I don't know why he hates me so much," he said quietly. "He doesn't hate you," Emily said. "He's just a bully. People like him pick on others to feel powerful. It's not about you. It's about his own insecurities." Marcus wanted to believe her, but it didn't make the pain any less real. Later that afternoon, as the school day ended, Marcus was walking home when a car pulled up beside him. To his surprise, it was the school principal, Mr. Carter. "Need a ride?" Mr. Carter asked with a warm smile. Marcus hesitated but nodded. "Thank you," he said, climbing into the passenger seat. Mr. Carter was known for being approachable and kind. He had taken a particular interest in Marcus after hearing about his transfer. "How are you settling in?" he asked as they drove. "It's okay," Marcus said, though his tone betrayed him. Mr. Carter glanced at him. "That doesn't sound very convincing. Is something bothering you?" Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to cause trouble or seem like he was tattling, but the weight of the past 2 days was too much to bear. "It's just some kids at school," he said cautiously. "They've been giving me a hard time." Mr. Carter's expression darkened. "Bullying?" Marcus nodded, looking down at his hands. "It's mostly one person, Eric Daniels." The car went silent for a moment. Mr. Carter's grip on the steering wheel tightened, but he kept his voice calm. "I see. Thank you for telling me, Marcus. I'll handle it." Marcus felt a mix of relief and apprehension. He didn't want to make things worse, but he couldn't endure Eric's torment any longer. The next morning, Eric strolled into school as if he owned the place. He had no idea that his actions were about to catch up with him. Mr. Carter had already spoken to several teachers and reviewed the school's security footage from the gym and library. The evidence was damning. During the morning announcements, Mr. Carter called Eric to his office. Eric assumed it was about something trivial and didn't think twice about it. But when he entered the principal's office and saw Marcus sitting there, his smirk faltered. "Eric," Mr. Carter began, his tone firm, "we need to talk about your behavior." Eric tried to play innocent. "What behavior? I haven't done anything." Mr. Carter raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because I have multiple reports and video evidence that suggest otherwise." Eric's face turned pale. "I was just joking around," he said quickly. "It wasn't serious." "Bullying is never a joke," Mr. Carter said sharply. "Your actions have made another student feel unsafe and unwelcome. That is unacceptable." Eric shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't mean to." "Enough," Mr. Carter interrupted. "You will apologize to Marcus, and you will attend mandatory counseling sessions. Additionally, you're suspended from all extracurricular activities for the next month." Eric was stunned. "But..." "No buts," Mr. Carter said firmly. "You need to take responsibility for your actions." As Eric reluctantly apologized to Marcus, he couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Carter's gaze was strangely familiar. It wasn't until he left the office that he realized why. Mr. Carter was Marcus's father. Eric left the principal's office fuming. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Suspension from extracurricular activities, counseling sessions, and apologizing to Marcus in front of Mr. Carter? It was humiliating. His mind raced with ways to turn the situation around, but there was one question that kept nagging at him. Why was Mr. Carter so invested in this? At lunch, Eric sat with his usual group of friends, but his frustration was palpable. "I don't get it," he muttered, stabbing at his food with a fork. "Why is Mr. Carter making such a big deal out of this?" "Maybe he's just trying to scare you," one of his friends suggested. "Principals do that all the time." "Yeah," another chimed in, "and Marcus is new, so maybe Mr. Carter just feels bad for him." But Eric wasn't satisfied with those answers. Something about the way Mr. Carter had defended Marcus felt personal. He couldn't shake the memory of the way Mr. Carter had looked at him during the meeting, stern, yes, but also protective. It didn't make sense. Meanwhile, Marcus spent the day trying to avoid attention. He didn't trust that Eric would take his punishment quietly. He kept his head down in class and sat at a different table in the cafeteria, far from Eric and his friends. Emily, noticing his unease, joined him. "Are you okay?" she asked, setting her tray down across from him. Marcus shrugged. "I guess, but I don't think this is over." "Don't let Eric get to you," Emily said firmly. "He's all talk." Marcus appreciated her support, but he wasn't convinced. Eric had a way of making his life miserable, and he doubted a suspension would stop him. That evening, Eric decided to do some digging. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. He searched online for information about Marcus but didn't find much. Frustrated, he turned his attention to Mr. Carter. That's when he stumbled upon an old news article. "Local principal adopts black son," the headline read. Eric stared at the accompanying photo. Mr. Carter, standing proudly next to a young Marcus. His heart sank. Suddenly, everything made sense. Mr. Carter wasn't just standing up for a student. He was standing up for his son. Eric's initial reaction was anger. He felt blindsided, like the rules had been unfairly stacked against him. But as he sat there, staring at the screen, a different emotion crept in: shame. He thought about all the things he'd said and done to Marcus over the past few weeks. It wasn't just bullying. It was personal, targeted, and cruel. And now he realized just how deeply his actions had cut. The next morning, Eric avoided Marcus at school. For the first time, he felt the weight of his actions. He couldn't bring himself to look Marcus in the eye. During lunch, he sat alone, his usual bravado replaced by a sense of unease. But Marcus wasn't oblivious to the change. He noticed that Eric had stopped his usual antics. No taunts, no pranks, no mocking stares. At first, Marcus thought it was just a temporary reprieve. But as the day went on, he realized something was different. In the principal's office, Mr. Carter was reviewing paperwork when there was a knock at the door. He looked up to see Eric standing there, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Come in," Mr. Carter said, setting his pen down. Eric hesitated before stepping inside. I wanted to talk to you, he said. Mr. Carter gestured for him to sit. What's on your mind? Eric fidgeted with his hands, struggling to find the right words. I didn't know Marcus was your son, he admitted. Mr. Carter raised an eyebrow. And would that have changed how you treated him? Eric looked down. Maybe. I don't know. Mr. Carter leaned forward, his tone firm but not unkind. Eric, it shouldn't matter who Marcus is or what his connection to me is. What matters is that you treated him with disrespect and made his life at this school unnecessarily difficult. That's not the kind of person you want to be, is it? Eric shook his head. No, sir. Then what are you going to do about it? Mr. Carter asked. Eric didn't have an answer. He left the office feeling more conflicted than ever. Over the next few days, Eric's behavior continued to shift. He no longer joined in when his friends made jokes at Marcus's expense. He started participating more in class and focused on his schoolwork. But the guilt still weighed on him, and he knew he couldn't move forward until he made things right. One afternoon, as the final bell rang, Eric spotted Marcus leaving the school building. Summoning his courage, he jogged to catch up with him. Marcus, he called out, slightly out of breath. Marcus turned, his expression wary. What do you want? He asked. Eric hesitated. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Marcus blinked, clearly taken aback. What? I'm sorry, Eric repeated. For everything. The jokes, the bullying, all of it. I was wrong, and I know I hurt you. Marcus studied him, unsure whether to believe him. Why are you telling me this now? Because I realized I was being a jerk, Eric admitted. And because I found out about Mr. Carter. I didn't know he was your dad. Marcus's jaw tightened. So that's what it took for you to apologize? Finding out who my dad is? No, Eric said quickly. Well, maybe at first. But now I see it doesn't matter. I was wrong, and I'm trying to do better. Marcus didn't respond right away. He wanted to believe Eric was sincere, but after weeks of torment, trust didn't come easily. I'll think about it, he said finally before walking away. In the weeks that followed, Eric's efforts to make amends became more apparent. He defended Marcus when others tried to mock him, helped him with a group project in science class, and even invited him to join a pickup basketball game after school. Slowly but surely, Marcus began to see that Eric's apology wasn't just words. It was backed by actions. One day, as they walked out of school together, Marcus turned to Eric. I still don't trust you completely, he said, but I appreciate what you're trying to do. That's fair, Eric said. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I just want to prove I can be better. As they parted ways, Marcus couldn't help but feel a small glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were starting to change. The following weeks marked a slow but meaningful transformation in the dynamic at Springfield High. Eric's efforts to mend bridges with Marcus didn't go unnoticed, not just by Marcus but by the rest of the school. While some of Eric's old friends found his newfound respect for Marcus strange, others were inspired to follow his lead. Marcus, on the other hand, found himself grappling with mixed emotions. He was wary of Eric's change, but at the same time, he felt a weight lift as the bullying diminished. Emily noticed the difference, too, and encouraged Marcus to take small steps toward forgiveness. People can change, Marcus, she said one afternoon as they worked on a history project in the library. And it looks like Eric is really trying. I know, Marcus admitted, fiddling with his pen. But it's hard to just forget everything he did. Emily nodded in understanding. You don't have to forget. Forgiving isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about not letting it control you anymore. Meanwhile, Eric continued his quiet campaign for redemption. He sought out opportunities to help others, not for recognition but because it felt like the right thing to do. When he noticed a younger student struggling to carry a stack of books, he offered to help. When a new transfer student seemed lost, he showed them around. Slowly, he was rebuilding his reputation, not as a bully but as someone people could count on. One day, during gym class, Coach Miller announced that the school would be hosting a charity basketball tournament to raise money for local youth programs. We need team captains, Coach said. Any volunteers? To everyone's surprise, Marcus raised his hand. He loved basketball but had always avoided drawing attention to himself. The gym fell silent as Coach nodded in approval. "Great," Coach said. "We need one more captain. How about you, Eric?" Eric froze. He hadn't expected to be called out, but he nodded reluctantly. "Sure, Coach." As the two captains stood side by side, the contrast between them was stark. Marcus was nervous but determined, while Eric was acutely aware of the tension in the room. When it came time to pick teams, Marcus made the first choice. "I'll take Emily," he said confidently. Eric scanned the group of students before making his selection. "I'll take Kevin," he said, choosing one of Marcus's closest friends. The team selections continued, with Marcus and Eric alternating picks. By the end, their teams were evenly matched, and the stage was set for an intense game. The day of the tournament arrived, and the gym was packed with students, teachers, and parents. Mr. Carter watched from the sidelines, his gaze shifting between Marcus and Eric. He couldn't help but feel a sense of pride for both boys. Marcus for stepping out of his comfort zone, and Eric for striving to make amends. The game was competitive from the start. Marcus's team relied on speed and precision, while Eric's team used size and strength to their advantage. The crowd cheered as the score remained neck and neck. In the final moments of the game, Marcus found himself with the ball, racing toward the hoop. Eric moved to block him, their eyes locking for a split second. In that moment, Eric saw the determination in Marcus's expression and made a split-second decision. Instead of going for a hard block, he pulled back just enough to avoid a collision. Marcus made the shot, securing the win for his team. The gym erupted in applause as Marcus's teammates lifted him onto their shoulders. Eric stood on the sidelines, clapping along with everyone else. For the first time, he felt a sense of peace. He had done the right thing, and it felt good. After the game, Marcus approached Eric in the locker room. "Hey," he said, his voice hesitant. "Hey," Eric replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. Marcus shifted awkwardly. "That was a good game." "Yeah, it was," Eric said with a small smile. "You played really well." There was a pause before Marcus added, "I noticed you held back at the end. You didn't have to do that." Eric shrugged. "You deserved that win. And I owed you." Marcus nodded slowly. "Thanks." It wasn't a grand gesture or a dramatic reconciliation, but it was enough. For the first time, Marcus felt like he could start to move on. The following week, during a school assembly, Mr. Carter took the stage to address the student body. "Today, I want to talk about the power of change," he began. "Sometimes we make mistakes. We hurt others intentionally or unintentionally. But what defines us is how we choose to move forward." He paused, scanning the crowd. "Over the past few weeks, I've seen one of our students take responsibility for his actions and work to make things right. That's not easy to do, and it takes courage." Eric's heart raced as he realized Mr. Carter was talking about him. He felt a mix of pride and humility as his peers turned to look at him, some with admiration, others with curiosity. Mr. Carter continued, "Change isn't just about words. It's about actions. It's about choosing to be better, even when it's hard. And I hope that all of us can learn from this example." The assembly ended with a round of applause, and Eric felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He wasn't perfect, and he still had a long way to go, but he was finally on the right path. The story of Eric and Marcus became a turning point for Springfield High. It wasn't just about the two of them. It was about the entire school learning to embrace kindness, empathy, and understanding. Slowly but surely, the culture began to shift. Eric and Marcus weren't exactly friends, but they had found mutual respect. They worked together on class projects, supported each other on the basketball court, and even shared the occasional joke. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real, and it was enough. Marcus found himself thriving, both academically and socially. He joined the school newspaper, started a photography club, and even ran for student council. Emily remained his steadfast ally, and together, they worked to make Springfield High a more inclusive and supportive place. Eric, too, discovered a new sense of purpose. He joined a mentorship program, helping younger students navigate the challenges of high school. He learned to listen, to empathize, and to lead by example. By the end of the school year, the impact of their journey was undeniable. Marcus stood on stage during the awards ceremony, receiving recognition for his leadership and contributions to the school community. In the audience, Mr. Carter watched with pride, knowing that his son had not only overcome adversity, but had also inspired change. Eric clapped loudly, his heart swelling with a sense of fulfillment. He had come a long way, and while he couldn't erase the past, he had learned to build a better future. As the ceremony ended, Marcus approached Eric with a smile. "Hey," he said, "thanks for everything." Eric smiled back. "Same to you." And with that, the two boys walked out of the auditorium, side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The story of Marcus and Eric continued to inspire Springfield High long after the awards ceremony. Their journey became a beacon of hope, proving that even the most fractured relationships could heal through effort and understanding. It wasn't just about them anymore. Their actions created a ripple effect, transforming the entire school community. The school year ended on a high note, with Marcus and Eric's basketball tournament raising more funds than anticipated for local youth programs. The principal announced that the funds would be used to build a new mentorship and anti-bullying center within the school, named the Unity Hub. It was a place where students could seek guidance, support, and a sense of belonging. Marcus was one of the first students to volunteer at the Unity Hub. He shared his experiences with younger students, offering them advice and encouragement. Emily joined him, organizing workshops on empathy, leadership, and conflict resolution. Together, they created a safe space where students felt heard and valued. Over the summer, Marcus decided to take up photography seriously. His father, Mr. Carter, bought him a second-hand camera as a reward for his hard work. Marcus spent hours exploring the neighborhood, capturing candid moments of joy, struggle, and resilience. His photos spoke volumes, reflecting his journey and the stories of those around him. One day, while Marcus was out photographing a community event, he saw Eric volunteering at a food drive. Eric was stacking boxes of canned goods, chatting with the other volunteers. When he spotted Marcus, he waved and walked over. "Hey, Marcus," Eric said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Same here," Marcus replied, lifting his camera. "Just documenting the event." Eric nodded, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "You've got a talent, you know. Those pictures you took during the basketball tournament were amazing." "Thanks," Marcus said, surprised by the compliment. "It's just something I enjoy." "You're good at it," Eric insisted. "You should do more with it. Maybe even make it a career." The idea planted a seed in Marcus's mind. He had never considered photography as more than a hobby, but Eric's words made him wonder if it could be something more. Meanwhile, Eric spent his summer reflecting on his future. The lessons he had learned over the past year shaped his outlook on life. He wanted to make a difference, to use his experiences to help others avoid the mistakes he had made. He started volunteering at a local community center, mentoring younger kids who struggled with self-esteem and peer pressure. Eric shared his story openly, showing them that it was never too late to change. The kids looked up to him, seeing in him a role model who understood their struggles. One day, while Eric was helping a boy named Jaden with his homework, Jaden's mother approached him. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "Jaden talks about you all the time. He says you've helped him feel more confident." Eric smiled, humbled by her words. "Jaden's a great kid. He just needs someone to believe in him." As he watched Jaden beam with pride, Eric realized that he had found his calling. He decided to pursue a career in youth counseling, determined to make a lasting impact. When the new school year began, Springfield High felt like a different place. The Unity Hub was officially inaugurated, with Marcus and Eric cutting the ribbon together. The ceremony was attended by students, parents, and faculty, all of whom celebrated the positive changes in the school. Mr. Carter gave a heartfelt speech, thanking everyone who had contributed to the project. "This center is a testament to the strength of our community," he said. "It shows that when we come together, we can overcome any challenge." After the ceremony, Marcus and Eric found themselves standing in the middle of the Unity Hub, surrounded by students exploring the new space. "Pretty cool, huh?" Eric said, looking around. "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "I never thought something like this could happen." "It happened because of you," Eric said. "You inspired all of this." Marcus shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was everyone. You played a big part too." Eric smiled, feeling a sense of pride and gratitude. "Thanks, man." As the months went by, Marcus and Eric continued to grow in their respective paths. Marcus started a photography club at school, attracting students who shared his passion. He organized photo exhibitions, showcasing the talent within the school. His work caught the attention of a local gallery, which offered to display his photos in an upcoming exhibit. Eric, on the other hand, became a peer mentor at the Unity Hub. He led workshops on leadership and conflict resolution, using his own experiences to teach others. His transformation inspired his classmates, many of whom sought his advice and guidance. The bond between Marcus and Eric also deepened. They weren't just allies, they were friends. They supported each other through challenges, celebrated each other's successes, and worked together to make Springfield High a better place. One day, during lunch, Emily joined Marcus and Eric at their table. "Guess what?" she said excitedly. "The school's putting together a yearbook committee, and they want us to be part of it." "Us?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Yeah," Emily said. "They want Marcus for photography, Eric for writing, and me for design." Eric grinned. "Looks like we're a dream team." Marcus chuckled. "I guess so. Let's do it." The yearbook project became another opportunity for the trio to leave their mark on the school. They poured their creativity and effort into the project, determined to make it the best yearbook Springfield High had ever seen. By the end of the school year, the transformation of Springfield High was complete. The Unity Hub had become a cornerstone of the school community, fostering a culture of kindness and inclusion. Marcus and Eric's story was featured in the local newspaper, highlighting their journey and the impact they had made. During the graduation ceremony, both Marcus and Eric received special recognition for their contributions to the school. As they stood on stage, the audience erupted in applause, celebrating their achievements and the hope they represented. As they walked off the stage, Marcus turned to Eric. "We did it," he said. Eric nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yeah, we did." And with that, they stepped into the future, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. The story continues as Marcus and Eric step into the next phase of their lives, carrying the lessons and bonds forged during their transformative journey at Springfield High. The changes they brought about had left an indelible mark on the school, but their aspirations extended far beyond its walls. Over the summer following their graduation, Marcus and Eric began to explore ways to extend their influence to the broader community. Inspired by the overwhelming success of the Unity Hub, they decided to launch a nonprofit initiative aimed at promoting empathy, understanding, and mentorship among youth in the city. The organization, which they named Bridge the Gap, had a clear mission: to create spaces where young people could connect, learn, and grow together, regardless of their backgrounds. With the help of Mr. Carter, Emily, and several other supportive adults from Springfield High, they began the groundwork for their vision. Their first challenge was securing funding for the project. Marcus and Eric brainstormed ideas, eventually deciding to host a community event, a combination of a photography exhibition and a talent show. Marcus curated the exhibition, showcasing not only his own work but also the photos taken by the students in his photography club. Meanwhile, Eric took charge of organizing the talent show, recruiting performers from various schools and community centers. Word spread quickly, and the event drew a crowd larger than anyone had anticipated. The local press covered the story, highlighting Marcus's powerful photographs and the uplifting performances at the talent show. Among the attendees was a prominent philanthropist, Ms. Evelyn Parker, who was moved by their initiative and pledged a significant donation to support Bridge the Gap. "You boys have something truly special here," Ms. Parker said during the event. "This city needs more people like you." The success of the event gave Marcus and Eric the confidence and resources they needed to officially launch Bridge the Gap. They rented a small office space and began developing programs focused on mentorship, creative expression, and leadership training. As Bridge the Gap gained traction, Marcus and Eric faced new challenges. Running a nonprofit required skills they hadn't fully developed yet: budgeting, marketing, and navigating bureaucracy. There were moments of doubt, especially when progress seemed slow, but they leaned on each other for support. Marcus found solace in his photography, often capturing moments that reminded him of why they had started the organization. Eric, meanwhile, used his charisma and storytelling skills to rally volunteers and build partnerships with local businesses. One of their first major programs was a summer camp focused on art and leadership. They brought in guest speakers, including Emily, who had pursued a career in graphic design, and other community leaders who shared their journeys. The camp became a safe haven for kids who often felt overlooked, providing them with tools to express themselves and build confidence. As the first year of Bridge the Gap came to an end, Marcus received an unexpected call from a national photography magazine. They had seen his work in the local press and wanted to feature him in an upcoming issue. The recognition was both thrilling and humbling for Marcus, who saw it as an opportunity to shed light on the work he and Eric were doing. The magazine interview allowed Marcus to reflect on his journey. "Photography taught me to see the world differently," he said. "And now, through Bridge the Gap, we're helping others see that they have a place in the world too." Eric, on the other hand, was invited to speak at a youth leadership conference. Standing on stage in front of hundreds of students, he shared his story of transformation, emphasizing the importance of self-reflection and the power of change. "I'm not perfect," Eric said during his speech, "but every day I try to be better, and that's what I hope for all of you. Just take one step at a time." As Marcus and Eric continued to grow Bridge the Gap, they remained deeply connected to Springfield High. The Unity Hub became one of their flagship programs, serving as a model for other schools looking to create inclusive spaces. Teachers and principals from neighboring districts visited Springfield High to learn about its success, often meeting with Marcus and Eric to hear their insights. By the time Bridge the Gap celebrated its 3rd anniversary, it had expanded to include after-school programs, weekend workshops, and community service projects. Marcus and Eric's story had inspired countless others to take action, proving that even the smallest steps could lead to monumental change. One particularly memorable moment came during a Bridge the Gap reunion event. Students who had been part of the program shared how it had changed their lives. A young girl named Sophia, who had once struggled with bullying, spoke about how the mentorship program had given her the courage to stand up for herself and others. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," Sophia said, addressing Marcus and Eric directly. "And now I want to do the same for others." Hearing Sophia's words, Marcus and Eric exchanged a look of pride and gratitude. They knew that their work was far from over, but moments like these reminded them why they had started. As they stood together at the end of the reunion event, watching the crowd of smiling faces, Marcus turned to Eric. "Think we'll ever run out of ideas?" Eric laughed. "Not a chance. There's always more we can do." With that, they began planning their next big initiative, a city-wide festival celebrating diversity and creativity. It was a fitting next step for two young men who had turned their own struggles into a powerful force for good. And so, the story of Marcus and Eric continued. A story of resilience, friendship, and the unwavering belief that even the most fractured communities could come together and thrive. Years passed, and Marcus and Eric's impact extended far beyond what they had ever imagined. Bridge the Gap was no longer just a local nonprofit. It had become a national movement. Chapters of the organization sprang up in cities across the country, each inspired by the mission Marcus and Eric had championed, creating spaces for understanding, growth, and unity. The two friends, now in their late 20s, had grown into confident leaders and changemakers. Marcus had published a book of his photographs, accompanied by stories of resilience and transformation from those featured in his images. The book, titled Through Their Eyes, became a bestseller and was used in schools and community centers as a tool for teaching empathy. Eric, on the other hand, had become a sought-after motivational speaker. His charisma and ability to connect with audiences earned him invitations to speak at universities, corporate events, and even TED Talks. Despite their individual successes, both Marcus and Eric remained deeply committed to the heart of their mission, empowering the next generation. When Springfield High invited Marcus and Eric to speak at the school's 50th anniversary celebration, they eagerly accepted. The invitation felt like a full-circle moment, a chance to reflect on how far they had come since their days as students navigating conflict and growth. As they walked into the school gymnasium, now adorned with banners celebrating the school's legacy, memories came flooding back. Marcus spotted the spot where the Unity Hub had once stood, now replaced by a state-of-the-art student center named in honor of their efforts. The event was packed with alumni, current students, and teachers. Mr. Carter, now retired, stood at the front of the crowd, beaming with pride. He had played a crucial role in shaping both Marcus and Eric's journeys, and the two men made sure to express their gratitude when they took the stage. Eric began the speech with his characteristic humor. "I think we can all agree I wasn't exactly Springfield High's poster child for good behavior back in the day," he said, earning a round of laughter. "But what I learned here, about myself, about others, changed my life forever." Marcus followed, his tone heartfelt. "This school taught us that change is possible, no matter where you start. And today, as we look out at all of you, we see a future filled with possibility." Their words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom had been part of their journey or witnessed the ripple effects of their work. As the evening ended, Marcus and Eric were approached by students and alumni eager to share their own stories of transformation. After the anniversary celebration, Marcus and Eric began discussing the future of Bridge the Gap. They realized that while their organization had accomplished so much, there was still untapped potential. Inspired by the energy at Springfield High, they decided to focus on creating leadership academies for young people across the country. These academies would be immersive programs, combining mentorship, creative expression, and community-building activities. Marcus envisioned using photography and storytelling as tools for self-discovery, while Eric planned workshops on public speaking, conflict resolution, and leadership skills. To fund the initiative, they launched a nationwide campaign, drawing on the network of supporters they had built over the years. The response was overwhelming, with donations pouring in from individuals, corporations, and even celebrities who had been inspired by their story. One of the most significant endorsements came from Sophia, the young girl who had spoken at their reunion years earlier. Now a successful social worker, Sophia credited Bridge the Gap with giving her the confidence to pursue her dreams. "Marcus and Eric didn't just change my life," she said in a campaign video. "They changed the lives of everyone I've been able to help since." As Bridge the Gap's leadership academies flourished, Marcus and Eric took a step back to reflect on their journey. Sitting together in the office that had once been a small, shared space and was now the bustling headquarters of a national organization, they marveled at how far they had come. "Do you ever think about what life would have been like if we hadn't met?" Marcus asked one day. Eric nodded thoughtfully. "All the time, but I'm glad we did. You saw something in me when I didn't even see it in myself, and you reminded me to be brave," Marcus replied. "To step out of my comfort zone and stand up for what I believe in." Their friendship, forged in the halls of Springfield High, had become the foundation for something far greater than either of them had imagined. Together, they had not only bridged the gap between their own differences but also inspired countless others to do the same. As Marcus and Eric prepared to hand over more responsibilities to the next generation of leaders at Bridge the Gap, they felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They knew that their work would continue, carried on by the young people they had mentored and empowered. At the organization's annual gala, they announced a new initiative, a scholarship fund for students who exemplified the values of empathy, resilience, and leadership. The fund was named in honor of Mr. Carter, whose unwavering support had set them on their path. The announcement was met with a standing ovation, and as Marcus and Eric stood together on stage, they felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for their journey, for the people who had believed in them, and for the future they had helped create. Marcus and Eric's story is a testament to the power of transformation, the strength of friendship, and the impact of believing in something greater than yourself. Their journey may have started at Springfield High, but its ripple effects will be felt for generations to come.